Greetings, Uncle Travelling Matt here, and I am reporting live from Kyrgyzstan. So what I'm doing is I'm actually sitting on a beach at the seashore, where everyone's having a good time. They're bathing and they're having fun. And you might wonder how that's possible in a landlocked country, thousands and thousands of miles from the sea, but I'll explain that later. In the meantime, what I'm going to do in this video is talk about what we did yesterday. And I didn't make a video yesterday because, well, the day finished rather late. So, what happened? Woke up in the hotel in Tashkent, and Aziz and both Omar and Bilal, two of his kids, came and spent a bit of time with us before we went. And what we did, there were several things we wanted to do. One of them was Tom wanted to get a football top from a local Tashkent club, so we did go there to do that. But then the other thing is, Aziz had told us about the oldest Quran in the world is in Tashkent, and I thought, well, that's something that's probably not worth missing. And it's what it is. If you know anything about the history of Islam, so the Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, or so the story goes, but in visions, or kind of, he heard it and was told to recite, and it wasn't written down initially, and then later people thought it might be a good idea to write down. Some people say that the Prophet himself was illiterate, other people say that's not actually true, he probably was literate, but it makes him sound more miraculous. You say he was illiterate, I'm not going to go into that one, but anyway, later on it was written down and people started using it as a book to remember what the Prophet had taught. Now, there was a problem with this because lots of different versions of the Quran started floating around. And so one of the caliphs, and it was Umar according to the Sunnis, although the Shias say it was Ali. But we'll go with Umar now because the version we saw in the Tashkent Museum was Umar. He said, look, we need a standardised version written down. And so what he did is he ordered all the old Qurans to be collected in and destroyed, all the ones that were heretical, say. And then this standardised one written down, and copies were made, I think 6 or 7, and they were sent to different towns. And that's what he did. And this is the only complete one left. Say complete one, apparently it's not entirely complete because it's somebody, a couple of pages went missing during the Soviet period and ended up on eBay. But there are other fragments of the others. There's one in Britain apparently, so I might try and have a look at that. But what we saw was essentially the oldest Quran in the world, in terms of not the Quranic manuscript, there are much older ones, but the standardised version, and it all being complete. And it was quite interesting to look at. I mean, it's a bloody huge thing, written on animal skins. But it's very simple script, there's none of the, I think they call it dictatorial marks. So, a lot of it's open to your interpretation as to what the vowels may be, and therefore what the meaning may be. But it was very large, blocky letters. I don't know if that's what they call Kufic script. But anyway, so we went and saw that, and there's also a madrasa behind that's now like a kind of craft market and stuff. And we went to that, and then we carried on, and he said, "Is there anything else I wanted to see?" And there wasn't. And then Aziz had this idea. He said, "Well, I could take you to see some abandoned Soviet planes if you want." And we're like, "That sounds pretty cool, So he took us to the edge of town where there was this old military airbase, and it's obviously forbidden to enter, but he knew someone, he spoke to him on the gate, and he said, yeah, come in. He said, but you can't photograph, which is a shame because I would have loved to have got photos of these things. But and it was basically this graveyard of planes, and what had happened is during the war they'd moved a lot of factories from like Ukraine, Belarus, Russia into Central Asia, and this is one of them, and it's where they made the Ilyushin planes. And there was about 40 bloody planes there in various states of completion. So some were complete, some were, just shells and stuff. And we stopped by this in '76. It's a big cargo plane that they're still used today. Absolute monster of a machine, and it was really cool. Just like sitting there, this graveyard of planes. And how much longer it'll be there, I don't know, because they're building a new airport for Tashkent, and they're going to use this whole airstrip as part of it. And we saw the new terminal going up. Then from the new airport to the old one, we went there. And it was a bit different from when I last went. It's not a huge airport, but last time I came, they actually, when we got off the plane, the baggage we got off a truck that just drove across the runway to the entrance of the airport. So yeah, things have changed a bit. But we went to the airport, checked in. It was a bit of a pain because our baggage was over limit, so we had to pay for extra baggage to check in, and then we got on the plane, and it was a short flight. I slept through most of it and arrived into Bishkek, where we got a taxi into town. So this is the first time we've actually been into Bishkek. It was, I mean, everyone says it's a really low-key town. It just feels like a Soviet provincial town, not a capital. I don't think that's entirely fair. I mean, it is very Soviet. It's on a grid pattern, but it looks quite an interesting place. We checked into our accommodation, which is the USSR hostel, which is essentially 2 apartments that someone's turned into a hostel, but they still look like apartments. So it is like you're sleeping in someone's Soviet apartment, which is quite cool. And but of course, our main concern last night was to get somewhere to watch the football, which was easier said than done, because unlike everywhere else, nobody seemed to be playing the football. And although we were in the centre of the biggest city in the country, there wasn't a lot of nightlife action that was, in terms of pubs. You might say, well, that's because you're in a Muslim country, but this does seem to be the least religious of them all that we've been to. There are religious people, but not to the extent that it seems to be in the others. So we wandered around a bit aimlessly, to be honest, trying to find places. And then we ended up having a doner kebab. Well, I had a burger, but it was basically like doner meat in a burger. And changed some money. And then eventually got a taxi driver to take us to a bar that did, after several unsuccessful attempts, he found a bar that did show the football. And we watched England, and they played much better this time, but it was a tough Swiss team, and it was 1-1 after 90 minutes, no extra goals in extra time, and so it went to penalties, and they won on penalties, which is, as an England fan, that's something that's pretty rare. It's not unheard of, but what was perhaps unheard of is the penalties were flawless. England scored all 5 of theirs, and Switzerland didn't miss any. It's just our keeper saved the first one. So absolutely incredible, that really. So we are in. Everyone's moaning about how the England team have performed and the manager, they're all having a go at him. He's got us to the bloody semi-finals again. So I haven't done that badly. And it turns out, I know now, because that game was played after and I wouldn't have known it last night, that we're playing the Netherlands in the semi-finals. So that's something to look forward to. But for now, it's Kyrgyzstan, and I'll talk about that in my next video. So, travelling Matt, travelling.